housing units, that's great. Keep the cap and trade carbon regime in place. So that's one point where you're very different than the PC party.
Very different. Yes.
Keeping the Jobs and Prosperity Fund in place, which is great. And I was intrigued by
We're going to repurpose some of that funding though, towards apprenticeship, like to the apprenticeship programs though, right? And trades.
Which is great, but also a stream to be created on manufacturing research and development, which is great. I mean, being from Kitchener-Waterloo, you know all about that.
Absolutely. Advanced manufacturing, I think that we haven't reached our potential, and certainly that's what I've been told from the various businesses from the Chamber of Commerce in Waterloo Region. And there is much to be done. I mean, we have an amazing organization, Catalyst 137 in Kitchener-Waterloo. It's almost 400,000 square feet of manufacturing, design and tool. Like, we're making things again in Kitchener-Waterloo, and I think that that's really exciting, instead of giving other jurisdictions that business and those jobs.
So I want to come back to your region just towards the end of this program, but so going through the fiscal plan, your platform has significant investments and spending initiatives within it. The bottom line indicates a smaller deficit than what the Liberal government has put forward in this last budget, but you do have some personal income tax increases. I think it's 1% on if somebody's earning $220,000, it's 1% on the whole amount, and once somebody hits $300,000, it's an extra 2% on their marginal tax rate. So some of the people who watch this program fit into that category, and I think this is the question that they would ask you, because within your document it says we're going to ask people who are high income earners to pay their fair share.
That's right.
I think that's the word. And these guys are saying, well, one individual in particular said to me, I already pay 53.3% of my income, federally and provincially, in income tax, so more than half. What's fair share? At what point do we say, okay, that's fair now?
Well, listen, I mean, you know, we, from a corporate perspective, we have a very low corporate tax. The personal taxes will be comparable to other jurisdictions, quite honestly. And you know, we're addressing some affordability issues in other areas, like the child care, and like if you're a small businessman and you want to have a dental care program for your employees. So we're coming to the table in partnership with something like that. And you know, I mean, for us, this is something that, you know, we've talked about, and we want to be very clear and open with everyone about where we are with those taxation rates, and that's why it's in our platform. And asking those folks to pay their fair share. I mean, they obviously are going to have some issues with what is fair and what is not, but from our perspective, the lower and middle class incomes, they cannot afford to take any more hits. And so this is part of our broader affordability issues.
And to your party's credit, page 94, page 95, all of the revenue measures are laid out. Actually, that's the spending side. 95 and 96, I think, are the revenue measures, but it's all there. It's online at ontariondp.ca if you're curious to know what the party intends to spend money on and how we'll raise that money. It is laid out and pretty transparent. And a little bit of time we have left. You're from the Kitchener-Waterloo region, which, you know, for those of us in other parts of Ontario, including downtown Toronto, you know, we view that as a real success story. That's a region where it's working. We have post-secondary institutions, we have small businesses, large businesses coming together, really competing in the new economy. You're an opposition member, so I guess you would see both sides of this, what's working well and what needs improvement. Talk to us a little bit about what you see in your region as needing improvement for the people that live there.
So I would go back to the connectivity piece. I think that this is one of the major issues that I do hear about. We have large companies like Google and Desire to Learn. Communitech is an ecosystem which is really focused on skill retention and drawing skilled talent to the region. We like to call ourselves the Silicon Valley of the North. And we really do feel that having a stronger connection with Toronto, which is reliable, but right now there's no train that leaves from Toronto in the morning to go to Waterloo Region. So there's almost 25,000 people that commute into Waterloo Region. We want to get those people off the 401. We want to give them a fast, efficient, and reliable source of transit to get into the region. And then also, it has been promised so many times that we would have all-day two-way go. And right now we just have as I mentioned, 4 slow trains. Long term, I think that high-speed rail option, if there's an environmental assessment currently on the go, it's supposed to be a 2-year process. If it is viable and we can bring people into the region and connectivity with the airport as well, the investment will come into that region. And we have the universities, our engineers are renowned across the continent and across the nation. And that's what they're asking for. They're asking for reliable infrastructure planning that, it's not going to be a ribbon cutting every 4 years. It's actually going to be reliable timelines and budgetary expenditures. And that's why I put forward a motion asking this government, because even the regional express for the relief line or the freight express line, it's not in their current long-term infrastructure plan. So I think there's many ways to improve the way we plan and deliver infrastructure, and so perhaps I'll come back and we can talk more about that in the future. But that connectivity to Toronto, the Toronto Region Board of Trade is looking at housing, transit, energy costs. Those are things that we can do something about.
Do you believe the high-speed rail project will get off the ground at some point?
I'm looking forward to that environmental assessment. There are 22 reports on high-speed rail, so we're very good at studying it. The Rick Mercer report did something on that as well. But do I think that we can't continue to have people sit on the highway for 3 or 4 hours one way? There's a cost, there's an environmental, there's a healthcare, there's a quality of life cost, and there's a productivity cost. And if we're looking to reach our potential, reliable transit options have to be a priority for any government going forward. And one final thing, though, on that is that whoever does win this election, they will be inheriting some kind of mess. And until we can get in there and have a full audit of actually what is going on, I think that there are some outstanding questions that this government will leave us as to the validity of the numbers that exist right now.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about politics. Your region, Kitchener-Waterloo, in the 2014 election, elected yourself, at least one progressive conservative, and at least one liberal. So it's one of the few parts of the province where there's these three-way, at least opportunities for the parties.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you expect that again in 2018, the upcoming election?
So I think that, I feel like this is going to be an election about emotion. I mean, I'm very proud of the platform we put forward, but, there's a very strong sense of anger out there. And people in this province are going to be, 80% of them said they want change. And so, the work before us is to give them an option for that change. But the sentiment is strong and the anger is real. And I don't think that, I know that Kathleen Wynne and the Liberals are not going to be able to talk their way out of, or have a conversation out of this situation. So on the doors, what I hear is that people want a strong champion for the values that they see, and those values are, of course, reflected in this platform. And they have a genuine distrust of Doug Ford. Doug Ford does not resonate in the same degree evenly across the province of Ontario. And so I would tell you quite honestly is that my goal is to give a plan and then demonstrate, the 6 years that I've served. And if I'm fortunate enough to get elected again, and if Andrea Horwath is the Premier, I would welcome the opportunity to put these ideas into action.
Well, and at your launch yesterday, certainly your leader did I think a pretty good job of evening it out. There's going to be, I think, parts of the province where the political battle, the electoral battle, is going to be between your party and the PCs. There are parts of the province where the Liberals aren't going to play. She actually dedicated a fair bit of time to going after Doug Ford and the PC party, almost as much as she did going after Kathleen Wynne and the Liberals. Does your party need to fight that kind of two-pronged battle in order to help out your candidates where the main opponent is the PC? Yeah,
I mean, I think that there will be some there will be regional differences. I mean, the North is its own world in some respect. In southwestern Ontario, we have some momentum in southwestern Ontario. Really, I mean, there's more seats this time too, right? And so Toronto, I think Toronto is going to be a very interesting place to watch how the ridings swing back and forth. I have to tell you honestly, like we've been able to attract some pretty strong, credible, hardworking candidates. And it is true, though, is that campaigns still matter. And this is going to be a very interesting election. And I think I would agree with Jamie Watt, is that I think that it's going to be a fairly negative, because the Liberals have only one play in their playbook right now, and that's to attack. And so we're saying to people, you don't have to choose between the Liberals and the Conservatives. We know what they deliver, and this time there's going to be a change for the better.